Hi guys, welcome to Believers IS Academy. So today we'll be studying one of the most important geographical phenomena which India is currently going through, and that is El Nino. Okay, we'll be studying El Nino and its effect especially on Indian economy. As you are aware, our agriculture is mainly dependent on monsoon rainfall. Okay, and this El Nino has severely affected our monsoon, especially in 2026. Okay, so in this regard, we'll be understanding the phenomena regarding what is El Nino, how they are formed. Okay, and first and foremost thing, we'll understand the engines of climate, which is El Nino. We also called as El Niño-Southern Oscillation. We call it as Titanic dance between ocean and atmosphere. We'll understand this through when we understand this phenomena. How does it work? We'll understand what is this Titanic dance. Okay. And firstly, what is El Nino? El Nino, it's a basically what? Warming up of what? Central and eastern tropical specific waters. Okay. And this is warming up. Here the water is getting warmed up, and here in La Nina the water is getting cold, which is basically the opposite directions. Okay, and this El Nino Southern Oscillation cycle we experienced every 2 to 7 years, between 2 to 7 years, every year we'll be able to face this El Nino problem. Okay, so we'll understand the concept of El Nino. Okay, first and foremost thing you have to understand is during normal year. We are talking about normal year, and in normal year what will happen? In normal year, basically what will happen is, let's say, as you know, trade winds, these are trade winds, right? It is moving from northeast direction, and it is moving in southwest direction in southern hemisphere. So what will happen? During normal year, what will happen? These trade winds move towards this South Asian and Australian regions. Okay, while moving, they'll take the warm water which is collected in this equatorial region, and they will pile up in this Australian region. Okay, here you will see hot water getting collected here, and since there is upwelling of hot water, since water is getting upwelled from here, the lower, cold water will form here. As we are aware in our geography, here since there is warm, this low pressure is created in the eastern part of Australia. In eastern part of Australia, low pressure is created, and due to upwelling of what? Cold water, here high pressures are formed. Okay, as you know, wind move from high pressure to low pressure, and in this trade winds are intensified. Okay, as a result, the next thing what will happen is, since there is warm water, here what happens? Warm water, and the surrounding air is also warm. So here what happens? This air will start moving upward. Okay, this air will start moving upward. Since they move upward, when they reach what we call as tropopause in our atmosphere. Okay, in atmosphere we have studied there are various layers of atmosphere. In tropopause, what will happen is, this moving air will get diverged in this direction. Okay, they'll get diverged and they will sink over this high pressure areas. Okay, they will sink in this high pressure area. As they sink in this high pressure area, what will happen is, as you can see here, as they sink in high pressure area, they will sink in high pressure area. So this entire cycle, what is happening here, the water was moving, and since the surrounding air was very hot, it get evaporated, and after reaching tropopause, it got diverged, and it has sinked here. Okay, after sinking here, high pressure was created, as we have studied. This cycle is what we call as Walker's circulation. Walker's circulation. Okay, because this was founded by a geographer named Walker. That's why we call it as Walker circulation. Now what happens is, since the water is getting upwelled in this region, since the cold water is getting upwelled in this region, many of the underground planktons and zooplanktons will appear on the surface. And when this planktons and zooplanktons come into the surface, the surrounding fishes try to feed on them. As they feed on them, the fishermen around this Peru and Chile regions will be having great fishing time here. Okay, the number of fish will increase. As a result, the fishermen will have more fishes for them. Okay, this is one. And moving from here, we'll understand what will happen to Indian climate. Okay, since this phenomena is basically happening from April to June. Since this phenomena is happening in April to June, as you know, from April to June we have summer season. Since there is summer season, land is getting heated. If land is getting heated, low pressure is created. Okay, low pressure is created, and since water are not very much. It will not change its temperature very rapidly. So here high pressure will be created. Okay, high pressure will be created, and the air which moved here, which started moving here, will sink here. Okay, will basically sink in this high pressure area. Okay, high pressure area, and after sinking here, as you see, from air actually move from high pressure to low pressure. Okay, and this air after crossing equator, it diverges towards is right because of pyrolysis forces. Okay, because of pyrolysis force. And here what happens? This wind is basically what we call as southwest monsoon winds. This wind is what we call as southwest monsoon wind, and due to high pressure, since the air is sinking, the pressure of exerting the force is also high. That is the reason during normal year we will have very good rainfall in India. Okay, so this is during normal year. I hope you have understood. Now coming back to what happens during El Nino years. Okay, and before going to El Nino years, the one major thing happened during La Nina period is this trade winds will get further intensified. If they are further intensified, here during La Nina year, what will happen is this trade winds, what we are talking about, this trade winds will be much more stronger during La Nina years. This is all geographical phenomena. Okay, if this is getting stronger, and the air will also move very stronger, and if air is getting stronger and when it is diverging in this high pressure area, the force of wind will be very much high, and as the wind is very much high here, the movement of wind towards India, which has low pressure because of summer season, here due to this, the force of wind moving towards India is also 4. That is the reason why we will be having flooding during La Nina years. Though the rainfall, we will have rainfall, but in some years we will be having flooding as well in India. So this La Nina is caused because of this trade wind getting intensed. Okay, it will much more get stronger. That is the reason we will have good rainfall, and in fact in some year we also have this floods in India. Okay, floods in India. This is what La Nina is. So now we'll come to El Nino year. So in El Nino year, during El Nino year, what will happen is these trade winds which were moving towards east of Australia and Southeast Asian region. So here what happened basically during this period, the trade winds, the force of trade wind will become very less. Okay, the force of trade wind become very less. If I want to give you one example, take a bowl of water. Okay, take a bowl of water and try to blow. Okay, try to blow it. But when you blow, the water will get from it will travel from one edge to another edge. This is what happens in normal years. So here what happens, the air which was moving very fast towards this West Australian region, the speed will get automatically reduced during El Nino years. since the speed is getting reduced, what will happen is the water which was earlier collected here will started moving towards this Peru and Chile region. It will start moving towards Peruvian region. So here what happens? Here what do you say? The hot water gets collected and the surrounding airs will start evaporating, okay, and as they reach tropopause, they'll diverge, okay, and since here earlier it was low pressure, now the air will sink here and high pressure is created. Since there is high pressure here and the high pressure which was already there in India, high pressure was there, now this high pressure is not getting intensified, because earlier what happened, there was low pressure, air was raising here and high pressure was getting intensified. Since there is already high pressure here, the high pressure which is in Indian Ocean is not getting enhanced or getting stronger. That is the reason what will happen, the wind moving towards India, the speed of that wind will slow down, okay, the speed of the wind will get slowed down. Since there is no strong winds, so that is the reason what happens, this southwest monsoon will be very weak during El Nino years, okay. So this is the reason what happens in El Nino years, okay, and this phenomena is what we call El Nino. This phenomena is what we call El Nino. This is the situation why India will get very low rainfall during El Nino year. And I hope you have understood. Now we will see some of the consequence of El Nino. So here 50% plus, okay, workforce of India are at risk, because it is directly, since we are dependent on since our agriculture is rain-fed agriculture, since there is El Nino, so 50% of our workforce are at risk, which means since our 60% or around 60% of our population are directly dependent on agriculture, the workforce here due to El Nino is getting affected. And this year, since it comes in every 2 to 7 years, we can't plan the long-term agriculture planning, okay. We can't do long-term agricultural planning because of this El Nino years, okay. Next thing is, during El Nino year, there is 1,000 crore plus of losses, economic losses, okay, even from flood, and even for flood and drought situation, it is created by El Nino, okay. And states like Gujarat, Rajasthan have seen sharper yield decline, okay, sharper yield decline. So basically what happens, since our agriculture is dependent on monsoon, and this El Nino year will affect our monsoon rainfall. So due to this, it is severely affects our Indian economy, okay. Now further we'll move, what are the human and environmental costs. Now earlier we saw about economic causes. Now we'll see what are the human and environmental cost due to El Nino effect. Okay, first one is drought cycle. Okay, stunt crop growth, acute water scarcity, and rise in food inflation will hit rural household very much. As the reason, since there is no rainfall, there is no production of food, no growth of any crops or any agricultural activities. As a result, the inflation will, since there is no supply of agriculture goods, so what will happen? Since there is no supply is not there, or automatically the demand will increase, and as the demand will increase, the prices of the goods will also increase, and this will be severely affected, especially this rural households. Okay, and second thing is excess rainfall. As I told you, during La Nina years, we will be having too much of rainfall, which will actually damage our infrastructure, okay, displace communities and accelerate soil erosion across the vulnerable regions. And lastly, ecological disruption. Due to drought, many of the fishes will not survive. Even the animals which are in will not survive, especially these cattle, agriculture which are used for agriculture, they will not survive. Okay, and especially coastal livelihood will be severely affected even when there is El Nino or La Nina events. Okay, And next, we'll come to adaptability. So what are the things we can do in order to avoid this extreme situation? Okay, in order to avoid this extreme situation. One is smart farming. Smart farming basically means soil crop modules help in farmers to get this drought resistant seeds. Okay, seeds which are drought resistant, which can be grown even with a small amount of water also. We have to do this. And next is water management, strategic reservoir planning and watershed management. Okay, these are one of the initiatives which can be taken during extreme. Okay, in order to prepare ourselves for these kinds of year, we have to adopt these kinds of situation. And institutional action is Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology translates global ENSO data into actionable local forecast, which means we can forecast El Nino very early, since we can forecast this very early. What we can do is we can prepare well for these kinds of disasters. Okay, and next is this basically deals with El Nino, and La Nina and its effect. And one more important concept is now El Nino is called as Super El Nino. You have to understand this. El Nino is called Super El Nino. Why? Because earlier the temperature, the water temperature was around 0.5 degree to 1 degree. Now the rate of temperature has increased from 1 degree to 2 degree. Okay, it has increased from 1 degree to 2 degree, which means it's an impact of climate change. We can say it as impact of climate change. Apart from this super, it is also called Godzilla. Okay, Godzilla, El Nino. Okay, I hope you have understood this topic, and since we are experiencing physically, I hope you can experience this. Okay, and thank you so much.